Sound of Hope, the Possum Trot Story is Joshua Weigel's feature directorial debut, produced by Angel Studios and releases this summer on July 4th. Inspired by the true story of Possum Trot, Donna and Bishop Martin are convicted to their core to adopt, and their passion soon spreads to their congregation, leading to the adopting of 77 East Texas children. I got an email earlier while I was working today about the Sound of Hope, early screenings going on in my local theater, and so figured, why not? Let's pick up a ticket. Let's go check it out. So me and Jenna had the privilege of seeing Sound of Hope a little early. And Angel Studios has kind of been crushing it in the Christian filmmaking space. In my opinion, they're creating high art, faith-based stories that are worth telling. And I'm pleased to say that Sound of Hope is no different. Sound of Hope is definitely a story that is worthy of being put to the big screen and worthy of being seen. Possum Trot is such a big story. You know, you have 77 kids that are being adopted amongst 22 different families in East Texas, but the filmmakers hone in on really the two main personalities being Donna and her husband, Bishop Martin, and that was a solid move. You know, it allows us to explore their side of the story, the convictions that Donna feels, but that Bishop Martin is also feeling. And if you've ever toiled with the thought of adoption, should I do it, should I not? Or if you felt led to that, and whether you've already adopted or you haven't and you know that you want to someday, you will feel this scene on a personal level. Just the rise of the conviction in their own hearts. It happens super early on in the film, you know, to kind of set up the story. But yeah, it's definitely felt. And I think that it was a strong thing that the filmmakers decided to tell the story from their point of view. We get to hone in on their experience. Following their story allows us to see kind of the nuances that go into once you've adopted a kid. And the film spends the majority of the runtime exploring the conflict and challenges and toils of, you know, the different personality conflicts that are going to come up, and just a lot of the emotions that come with raising a kid that you didn't birth and that has a lot of trauma and things of that nature. I talked about how the film's going to hit home if you've considered adoption, but that is even more true if you have actually adopted, or even if you have heard of some of the hardships that come along with the adoption. This film beautifully visualizes what that would be like, what that experience would be or could be like going through it, and it's going to hit home with you. And yes, this film is the story of Possum Trot and the amazing adoptions that happen there, but it goes a little deeper than that, because truly what this film is about at its core is having joy amidst trials. Explores James 1:2-4, the themes of that verse, and they even in pass-through dialogue mention James at some point in the film. As far as pacing goes, the film is over 2 hours. I think it felt like an hour 40, which is pretty impressive and kind of hard to do when you have a story that kind of takes place over a longer period of time, has to do a couple of time jumps, things like that. But ultimately it was quick paced. It didn't leave you lingering in any scene or act for too long, and I was satisfied with that. Demetrius Gross and Nika King are strong actors, especially King. She brings such strong emotions to the story and really just puts the cast on her back. I mean, not that everybody was bad or not pulling their weight, but she was just totally a standout in this film. And this is the breakout role for Diana Babnikova. Sorry if I butchered that name, but she's the one who plays the adopted daughter Terry in the film. You know, a lot of the runtime explores the relationship of Terry with Bishop Martin and with Donna, and just the nuances of their relationship and the nuances of Terry and her specific condition, and the hardship that comes with that, and all of the tension that comes with that. And even though she's a supporting character, I feel like I would have wanted to see more out of her performance, since it is kind of the biggest storyline happening in the film. There are some comedic notes throughout the film. It definitely hit with our theater. We had a very audible theater. Me and Jenna weren't expecting that. Even had a baby. Someone brought their child, 2 years old maybe, to the theater. I mean, I'm thankful that we're post-pandemic and people are coming to the theater. But don't bring your kid. Anyway, the cinematography is gorgeous. It's actually beautiful. There were stills in the film that I wish I could screenshot because I loved them so much. Going off of a couple of the things that I loved, there's a part towards the end of the second act where the whole congregation is kind of coming together and acknowledging the hardship of adoption. And it's taken this emotional toll on a lot of the parents there. And they really just kind of bound arms and have this kumbaya moment of acknowledging their brokenness and linking arms with one another. And they break out into song, and essentially it turns into this war chant, basically this gospel war chant, and it gave me chills, man. It was such a powerful scene. I don't feel like that's a spoiler that there's just a heartfelt song scene in the film. So figured I'd just tell you that. That's definitely a high note. And then another high note, definitely keeping this spoiler free because it's towards the third act of the film. But there's a scene where the tension rises with one of the characters, and it just keeps rising and keeps rising and keeps rising. And it leads to a beautiful payoff. And it's gorgeous. And so in the third act, I'll just leave it at that. That kind of leads me into my next point is once we get past the exposition and once the kids are adopted, we're introduced to all the main characters. That's just when the tension starts to rise. And it rises and rises and rises and rises, and it doesn't really let off until the very end of the film. And then you're allowed that emotional release. The characters in the film get the emotional release that you've been hoping for and wanting for. And so you, as the audience member, get the emotional release as well. And my wife, Jenna, is bawling her eyes out during this time. And it was gorgeous, beautiful. It worked for me. In a film like this, there's a lot of hardship, a lot of hard things that are happening to the characters. They're going through really dark times in their life. And you just feel that throughout the whole film. And I was like, I need a joyful, I need a release of joy. I need kind of like a happy payoff. And I would say the film just ends beautifully. Now, if I'm going to get into a major downside of this film, it's that it has a message to tell. And, we have the story of Possum Trot and the beautiful, showings of the adoptions and, the relationships between the characters and their tension, build up and pay off. But then there's a message under all of that that the production company wants to tell, that somebody behind the filmmaking cast, crew, director, writer, whoever it is, wants to tell. And that message is that there's 100,000 kids in need of adopting in the United States, and that you, audience member and movie watcher, have a responsibility, and you have the ability to give to this cause or to do something about it. And that is definitely felt. I felt in the exposition there was a scene where it's just told to you and they're just laying out some facts for you, and they're telling the main character Donna and her sister, this is an abuse home, these are abuse cases, and I need you to do something about it, and you feel that pressure as well as the audience member. And what I would hope for here in a scene like this is the show don't tell mentality. Relay the information to the actor, show me the actor's reaction, show me those abuse cases playing out. And we got to see a couple of those, a couple of kids in poverty, kids that are living in a crack house or whatever, and those are very powerful scenes. Show me scenes like that. Don't tell me this is what needs to happen. And towards the second act of the film, we also get Reverend Bishop from the pulpit preaching to his congregation, and he's preaching how adoption needs to be a thing, and uses some biblical examples and gets his congregation to rise up. Now, I don't have as much of an issue with that tell not showing, because it's a major plot point used to show the conviction of the congregants building up towards adoption. And, Bishop using his platform it makes sense that he would do that. Not as much of a problem. But, I'm feeling that a little bit on the front end of the film. I'm feeling like, okay, there's a message to be told here. And then the film plays out and the story plays out. And I'm like, I love these characters. I loved this tension, this build-up, this payoff. And essentially, we get this scene at the very end, after everything is over. You get real-life footage of the story and the people who were involved in the true story, and they tell you where they are today, things that we've seen so many times on true stories and come to expect in a film like this. But then the credits don't roll, and the real Bishop and Donna are shown on screen reading from a teleprompter, giving the call to action and the call to give towards their cause and towards adoption, and towards seeing this movie and putting your butt in the seat and inviting your friends and your family. And they even, invite church members and stuff. They're telling you to invite church members. And it's at that point where I'm just like, okay, there was art and entertainment, and this has ceased, and now there's campaigning. And I did not buy a movie ticket for campaigning. And it doesn't really bother me. I know that Angel Studios, this is not the first time and won't be the last time that they do this. And they make a lot of money from doing it. And they raise a lot of money for great causes for doing it. So I'm like, do it, if that's what it takes. And it's making a big difference. But, as a film, as a piece of art and a piece of entertainment, that's what you would expect. And that's what I expect whenever I buy a movie ticket and want to sit in a theater. And I don't expect, a campaign run, unless I'm like warned or something. There will be a pitch at the end of the film, even if they said that disclaimer on the front, I'm like, okay. But all that happens before the credits roll. So it's like before the movie is over. I don't have a big problem with it. I just know that critics are going to really peel back the curtain of what's the message that's trying to be told here. I think the general public is not going to want a campaign out of the film that they paid to go see. So that's my thoughts on Sound of Hope in theaters July 4th. It's definitely a story worth telling, a story worth seeing in theaters. I'm excited to see what Joshua Weigel gives us in the future. Great directorial debut. I was pretty impressed with this one. So let me know what you think of The Sound of Hope. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. If you include the campaign at the end, it's a 3 out of 5 stars. But as I've reflected on my thoughts of this film, it's going to be a strong 4 out of 5 for me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys later.